COVID-19 has come. It is not so fun. We're caught in between. This is not a dream, but we're making it work. We're making it work. Let's get to work. Hello, I am Lauren Maxwell, your host of my very low budget web series, Let's Get to Work, where I talk to my friends and entrepreneurs about how they are managing their business and their sanity in times of crisis. The pandemic, of course, is the backdrop of our crisis currently, the backdrop of this conversation. And with me today is the lovely Kelly Agathos. Hi, Kelly.
Hello. Hi. How are you doing?
I'm good. It was a little bit frustrating today, as are some of the days, but I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I realized while getting up in the morning that this is week 4, and so I felt a little bit heavy. But it's sunny this week in Brussels, which is a very nice change. We've had very volatile weather the last 3 weeks. So that got me motivated to get out of bed and actually, poke my head outside the window and get my day started. So, and I've been productive today, so it's turning out to be a good day.
And thank you for continuing your productivity with our call.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thanks. So a little bit about Kelly. She is the owner, improviser, creator, performer at ImproBubble in Brussels, an English-speaking improvisational theater. And she's also my friend. Yeah, I think you could talk a little bit more about yourself, but I would love to know, tell me a little bit about ImproBubble and
sure.
as well as, the story of you dove into ImproBubble and then this backdrop.
Sure, I'm happy to. Well, I've been, I'm an improviser, so I teach, I perform, and I direct improvisational theater. At the same time as I was discovering the wonderful world of improvisation 10 years ago, because I'd always loved the theater from when I was a student at school. I was always in some way or another involved in a school or a university production. But then when I discovered improv, it was just love at first sight, and I never stopped doing it. But at the same time, 10 years ago, as I started improvisational theater, I also started a career in EU affairs, and that's why my base is in Brussels. And I love the European project. I'm a fervent European, and I am very, I feel like an engaged citizen politically. So I was doing both in parallel until last year. Because a few years ago, so 3 years ago to be exact, I was coming up to my 30th birthday, and I realized that something's got to give because the further you develop in your career, the more responsibilities you get, and the more you have to start prioritizing what matters to you. And the same was happening in improv. Like the more experience I was gaining, the better I was getting at improvisation, the more opportunities were coming my way. So I started wondering, and around 30, which is like a seminal birthday, a birthday that marks you a little bit, when I'm 40, 50, 60, when I wake up and I think about, I look back at my life, what is it that I want to think about the life I've done, what I've done with my life? I realized that my biggest regret would have been if I didn't pursue improv full time. So from that point onwards, I started working towards becoming a freelancer and having my own company with ImproBubble, which is called ImproBubble because it's here to serve the EuroBubble, which is the international community of Brussels that mostly works in European affairs. So people just like me, people who have interesting jobs in the European arena and jobs that matter. So I think very good people to do improvisation, to be able to be more empathetic, to be able to be more resilient and confident and communicate with passion. So ImproBubble was actually created 3 years ago. We had our anniversary this February, and it is a company that has a school, so anyone can come and learn improvisational theater. We also have, made up of our teachers, a professional forecast that puts on, well, was putting on until the pandemic, weekly shows in a theater dedicated to improvisation called L'Improviste. And we were also doing a lot of team buildings, corporate trainings, communication trainings. So those are the main three pillars of ImproBubble. Aside from that, I still dabble in screen work. I still do some voiceovers, anything really which has to do with the performative arts and communication, because I'm passionate about it. So that is the background to how I went from working in the EU institutions in my most recent job as a speechwriter to taking the plunge and deciding that I love improv too much that I have, like, if I have to choose, that's the thing I want to keep in my life, and that's the thing I want to keep doing forever.
Can I ask a quick question? What was it like? What has it been like in that plunge? Because you've also been in this uncertain place as you're trying to grow a business. So now we have a layer of uncertainty outside, but you've already been in the uncertainty.
Yeah. Well, the first 2 years of ImproBubble's existence, I was still working full-time at the European Commission, and before that at the British Permanent Representation. So I was balancing starting off with a side hustle alongside my full-time job. And in the beginning, we only had one class, and we've had very few corporate assignments here and there, so it was fine. It was really easy to have both together. But as the school grew and as our popularity grew in terms of shows and also the corporate work, it started taking over my life. So in the last year, in late 2018, early 2019, if I was not in the office, I was teaching, or I was getting productions ready, or I was setting up web content, ticketing content, etc. And that was probably the hardest point for me, because there was no free time, there was no downtime. The only time I could work on my business was outside of my office hours, so that meant my evenings and my weekends. And I remember still very vividly Christmas of 2019, where I literally got 5 days rest, and I was just sleeping. I just spent them sleeping. And even in that time, I didn't stop really working on ImproBubble, because I just acquired a venue because we needed a permanent home. So that was a very, very challenging part, because you have to juggle having enough money to set something up, like a new venue takes a lot of capital. You need to invest, you need to have 3 months rent up front. The place needed works done to be converted into a school/theater with lights, with all the technical equipment, etc. It needed insurance. It needed, like everything you need to be a place that welcomes people. It's not just a warehouse. You can't just take any space. So I couldn't just leave my job earlier, because I needed the money from my job to kind of offset that. So that was the first difficult period. And the second difficult period was like, okay, even though I don't have enough money, I've got to stop now or I'm going to drop dead. And so that was when I took the decision that, okay, now I resign. Now I have to dedicate myself full time. I'm already going in that direction, so we just have to cut the umbilical cord. So in April 15, 2019, I was a full-time entrepreneur. And the truth is that after taking the decision, after handing in my resignation letter, I already knew it was the right decision, and I just felt so light. And in the months after that, it was a breeze, because suddenly I went from a person that had no free time to a person who was dedicating their working time to what they loved and making choices about what was worth my time and what wasn't. And then very consciously having a life outside of it. And it just felt like I've been doing this my whole life. It was so natural for me to go into entrepreneur mode. So right now, for instance, even with all this, I've got to say, I can't imagine going back to a 9-to-5. I can't imagine going back to having a boss or being part of someone else's company. And the next challenge was the summer, because the summer work lessons, and I still had a venue to pay for. But you know, with a little bit of maneuvering, with a bit of credit card usage, I was able to make it through the summer. And on to a lovely autumn where really I felt like I felt like in the autumn/winter I really hit my stride, because business was going great. We had like classes were full at the school. We were getting more and more corporate work, and with the theater that we collaborate with for our professional shows, I think we were doing wonderful artistic work. So I was feeling very happy, fulfilled, and financially secure up until this point, when everything changed, because I went from having work lined up until the summer to zero. In the beginning of March, everything was canceled, everything I'm doing. And I'm still getting cancellations now, because there's still so much uncertainty. And yeah, this is not something I was prepared for. This is not something I expected. It did help me to have a rough summer, to have that like little dip in my finances in the summer, to not panic and realize that, you know, this is part of what it means to be an entrepreneur. Sometimes, you know, your bank account will be up, sometimes your bank account will be down. With the difference being that I don't know what I'm planning for now. Like, I don't know when we go back to normal, and I don't know whether we go back to normal. So it's a difficult thing to cope with, because it's not in your control. It's not like I made bad decisions in my business and now I'm reaping the results. As none of us in our profession did, because what happened to me happened to all of my colleagues, and all of your colleagues as well in the Netherlands. Every freelance improviser I know has had all their contracts canceled, and we're all trying to deal with this brave new world and finding different solutions.
So what are you focusing on now so that your thoughts don't go to the extreme negative, to help you keep the eye on the prize, the eye on the ball? I guess I can say that, but
yeah,
you know what I mean.
Well, the thing is that even though I am an improviser and I love improvisation, I also have a very strong control freak inside me that wants to know and wants to prepare, even though I can't prepare. So I have made like best case, medium case, and worst case scenarios for my company with my new partner, Phil Lunn, where we've kind of been like, okay, if we're allowed to open in May, here's what we do. If we're allowed to reopen in June, if we're allowed to reopen in July, blah, blah, blah. So you get the idea. So even though, I mean, we have no idea whether any of these are even remotely possible, having an idea of what our strategy will be has been a bit of a comfort and has helped us, even though we know that it could be any one of them. And aside from that, the thing I'm trying to do is, yeah, like when we did that, I let it go. I stopped worrying about it, and I started focusing on what is in our control. And what is in our control is deciding how much do we do online. If we do things online, a lot of theaters, a lot of performers are now doing online shows. Some are doing online drop-in classes, and I think our response has been to be somewhere in the middle, because for me, it's not about joining the rat race and being relevant. Like, well, if we don't do it, then we're not down with the kids or whatever. I think doing online improv works for some things, but not for everything. So we're doing improv jams which are low pressure and which are more for the community than for any financial gain. It's to keep everyone together, to keep people's spirits high, and to keep developing our skills, because what we need right now is to laugh and to play and to work on what makes us resilient in improv. So we didn't want to completely like go under a bunker and not come out again until the lockdown ends, but we also didn't want to act like it's fine, like we'll do everything we did before and you won't know the difference, because it's not true. Like I've been starting to see shows online and it's not the same thing. And I've taken workshops online and it's not the same thing. So we're kind of doing this thing in the middle where we select topics that we think are transferable, or where our students and our peers will still learn things. And we're offering those once a week. We're doing improv jams to have fun with each other and relax and keep in touch, and also to experiment with what works and what doesn't work in a less pressured setting. And we are doing shows, but they're not traditional shows. So we decided with my professional cast to use the fact that we cannot meet in person as a challenge to work on a format that doesn't require that. And so I came up with the idea of the radio, because back in the old times, there were radio plays where you could hear a whole story enacted, and you would, fill in the gaps with your imagination. So it's something that premiered this weekend. It's been a very fun experience to experiment with. And Paolo, one of my cast members, has been directing us because even before this period, with his old groups, he used to do radio drama, so he had some experience. I don't know if you tuned in, but it's something that I am more satisfied with rather than looking at someone on the screen and pretending we're in the same room. It sort of makes me feel a little more like this is still worthwhile.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I loved it. And I'm not just saying that. And it really inspired me of like, ooh, should I do the podcasting instead of video? And I'm like, no, I'm experimenting with video. Then I might move on. Loud sounds. Sorry. But yeah, it's so good. And I love that you're just still looking at whatever you can to connect, to move it further, despite not physically all being together and physically moving your business forward. So to wrap it up, I do have a question. I have 2 questions for you. One, what are you hoping to learn out of this? And 2,
that's
okay. How can we best support you at this time?
Well, what I'm already learning, and I'm hoping to learn even more of in the next few, I don't know, days, weeks, whatever, is that the control freak part of me needs to let go. I've been able to, I think, let go to the extent that I can. I mean, I haven't had a heart attack, even though the thought of losing ImproBubble, the venue, is a real possibility. Like, it could happen. It could be that if this thing goes on for another 4 or 5 months, I have to look at my bank account and say, no, I can't really afford rent for 4 or 5 months. So I am proud of myself for being resilient enough to think about these things without stressing and crying and winding myself up in a knot about. And what I've been trying to do is really focus on what I can control. What else I can control, and I've been doing to varying degrees of success, hopefully more success as time goes on, is take the things that have been on my list that have been on the back burner, like working on my personal website, working on my rapping skills, because I love improvised rapping, but I never sit around and just practice it. Getting my voice reel edited, these kind of things that have been on my list forever and which I want to do, but I always don't have time for. Now I've got nothing but time, so I have no excuses for the long list that I don't have time for. So what I'm hoping to find out, a lesson I'm hoping to learn about is, are my priorities aligned? Because if I'm hiding behind time, then now everything on my list should be getting ticked off slowly. And if it's not getting ticked off slowly, and if by the end of the lockdown and by the time we get back to normal life, if I still have things on the list that haven't got done, maybe it's time to let go of them. Maybe it's time to take them off the list and accept that these are never were a priority, and to stop wasting mental energy, because even if you're not doing something, you're thinking about it. And so that takes up a lot of real estate in your mind. So yeah, this is something that I'm working on.
One thing I really like, to make the metaphor, is you're learning how to let go. When it's very funny, you've already taken the plunge. In many ways, you already let go, and this is the you externally let go, but this is the internal let go process that you're going through.
Oh yeah. And at the end of the day, I mean, the great thing about entrepreneurs and improvisers, something that I think they have in common, is that you are problem solving all the time. You're in a scene. If a mistake happens, it's not a mistake. It's something that happened in the scene, and now you choose how you deal with it. In your business, if things go wrong, then you're the one who decides how you deal with it. Do you have the energy to build yourself up from the bottom again? Or do you want to go to the safety of a 9-to-5 job with a stable salary, where if I was, for instance, in the commission during this period, I would not have some of the worries that I have now, because I'd be working from home and I'd have a steady paycheck. But would I feel as fulfilled? Would I feel like I am doing my calling? No, probably not. Probably I feel some comfort for having for knowing that I'm financially secure, but I probably still have that feeling like I always had in the pit of my stomach, that I knew that this isn't me. This is not exactly what lights me up.
Thank you. There's so much. I'm going to reflect on that. If there is time after this recording, I will reflect on what you said.
Sure.
Because I think, yeah, I can absolutely 100% relate to what you're saying of, does this light me up? Does this fulfill me? Right now, I personally don't have a plan. All of my stuff got canceled, most of it at least anyway.
Yeah.
But I'm just trying to find things that light me up. And I think that's a really, really good way and motto to live by at this time, for everybody, because there's so much that we can't control, like you said. So
one thing that helps me also when thinking about this, because now people are talking about an economic recession, and something that comforts me, and maybe it'll comfort you or other people in a position like we are, is that it was hard to find a job in Brussels in 2010 when I moved here after my internship. Like, the internship was a breeze, but after that, I think it took me 8 or 9 months to find a very basic entry-level job. So when I think back to myself, that I went through all the time and effort to find, to get normal work, it's like, well, if it's going to be that hard anyway, why wouldn't you invest your time and energy into doing something that matters? Because if everything is unstable, and if nothing is, if you can take nothing for granted in the workplace anymore, then you might as well try to do something that's meaningful to you and that serves others as well. So that's something that I was reminded of, because that was another period that was hard. It's very humbling to go back to live with your parents and to be filling out job applications, and to be sitting by the phone or by the computer waiting for an interview, waiting to be given a chance. It's a different kind of hard. So now, at least, we are in control of creating our opportunities. And that is something that I take comfort in, and that is it's helping me, because I've got a lot of ideas. So now I've got the time to think to myself, okay, so what might work, and what would I enjoy doing? And I'm sure that we will get back to where we were. Maybe things will not be the same, and maybe it'll take a little bit longer than we want it to, but we're not just gonna, not everything we built is not just gonna disappear like that.
Thank you so much, Kelly. I really appreciate your time and also your
You're very
entrepreneurial
welcome.
spirit. It's been inspiring for me over the last 3 years. It continues to inspire me.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
COVID-19 has come. It is not so fun. We're caught in between. This is not a dream, but we're making it work. We're making it work. Let's get to work.